All right, so today we're diving into the world of internet personalities,
Oh boy.
and specifically one one figure who really stands out, Godwinson.
Yeah, he's quite a character.
He's known for stirring up trouble and then kind of vanishing.
Yeah, he kind of
Y-
pops up, causes chaos, and then disappears.
Exactly, leaving everyone to pick up the pieces. And I mean, you sent me a ton of material for this, articles, forum posts,
Oh
even
yeah.
some old YouTube videos. It's a lot to unpack.
It's like a digital soap opera, but with a lot more nihilism.
Yeah, and it's at the center of all this drama is Godwinson's relationship with another internet personality, PPP.
KK Aston.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a pretty spectacular falling out.
So before we get into the fireworks, let's start with the basics. Who is Godwinson in his early days?
Well, from what we can tell, he was really into critiquing other internet personalities.
Oh, so he was kind of like an internet critic even back then.
Yeah, and he wasn't afraid to troll people either, stir up some controversy.
That's about right.
He seemed particularly drawn to some of the more eccentric figures online, like Jahans and Warcorp 666.
Those are some interesting choices for sure.
Right. I mean, they're both pretty out there.
So what drew him to these figures? Was there like a common thread in his early work?
It's hard to say for sure, but he definitely had a knack for calling out hypocrisy
Uh-huh.
and challenging norms, even back then.
So kind of poking fun at the self-seriousness of the internet. I like it.
Yeah, he was like a digital jester in a way.
Now, we can't ignore the political element here. Some of the sources mention him interacting with Sargon of Akkad
Oh, yeah.
and his followers. For those who don't know, Sargon is a pretty controversial figure, often associated with the alt-right movement.
Right.
So was Godwinson aligning himself with those views?
Well, it's more complicated than that. From what we see, it seems like he was using trolling to disrupt Sargon's online activities.
Interesting.
Not necessarily endorsing his views, but definitely stirring the pot.
So more about chaos than ideology,
Yeah, he seemed less interested in taking sides and more interested in challenging everyone.
keeping everyone on their toes.
Exactly.
Which brings us to PPP, also known as Aston. This is where things get really interesting.
Oh, yeah, this is where the drama really starts.
So how did these two internet personalities collide?
It seems they crossed paths sometime around 2018,
Okay.
and they quickly formed this kind of alliance,
Okay.
united by their shared love of critiquing other internet figures.
So like a dynamic duo of internet snark.
Exactly. They had these shows like This Week in Nectar and The Four Horsemen, where they just rip into other content creators.
Sounds brutal.
Oh, it was. They particularly enjoyed going after figures like Andy Warski, Ethan Ralph, even Sargon of Akkad again.
Then no one was safe,
Nope, their humor was sharp, cynical, and they didn't care who they offended.
which of course made them incredibly popular.
It was like watching a train wreck. You couldn't look away.
But as we know, train wrecks rarely end well,
Yeah, this alliance eventually imploded.
and the fallout was pretty spectacular. Oh yeah. So what were the cracks in their relationship? When did things start to go south?
Well, a big turning point seems to have been Godwinson's sudden disappearance from the internet in 2021.
He just vanished.
Pretty much. Sources say it was due to real-life commitments, but who knows? Maybe he just got tired of the whole internet circus.
So Godwinson goes dark, and PPP is left to carry on alone.
Right, but during Godwinson's absence, PPP's own life takes a pretty interesting turn.
Oh,
He goes through this period of, well, let's just say personal and financial instability.
not good.
Not good at all. One source even described him as semi-homeless for a while.
Wow, that's a rough patch.
It was, and maybe out of necessity or maybe just a change in priorities, PPP starts to really lean into the commercial aspects of content creation.
So he's trying to make a buck.
Yeah, and he ends up partnering with Andy Warski, someone they both used to relentlessly mock, to create this new platform called Kino Casino.
Wait, so the guy they used to roast becomes his business partner.
Yep, pretty wild, right?
That's quite a turnaround. So what was Kino Casino all about? Was it just more of the same?
It was definitely a departure from their earlier work. Kino Casino was much more structured, commercialized, like a digital variety show, but with a lot of cynicism and a fair amount of pandering to their audience's, let's say, baser instincts.
It's not exactly highbrow entertainment.
No, not really.
So how did Godwinson feel about this new venture? Was he on board with PPP's transformation?
Oh, absolutely not. When Godwinson finally returns from his self-imposed exile, he is not happy with what he finds.
I can imagine.
He sees Kino Casino as a complete betrayal of their earlier principles.
Like PPP sold out.
Exactly. He felt that PPP was prioritizing profits over everything else.
Sacrificing quality for clicks and donations.
Exactly. And that's where the real drama begins.
Okay, so the stage is set, Godwinson is back, and he's not pleased. This is where things are about to get really messy.
Oh, you have no idea.
I can't wait to dive in.
Buckle up, because the fallout is going to be epic.
When we left off, Godwinson had just returned from his digital exile.
Yeah.
And he found his old pal PPP embracing the very thing they used to mock.
Commercialization.
Right, Kino Casino was in full swing, and Godwinson was not happy.
He was furious. He saw it as a total betrayal of everything they'd stood for.
Like PPP had sold his soul for clicks and donations.
Pretty much, and Godwinson wasn't afraid to voice his disapproval.
So he called him out publicly.
Oh yeah, he went on a full-on tirade against Kino Casino.
Did he give any specifics, or was it just general disgust?
He went into detail, criticized everything, the format, the content, even the personalities involved.
So it wasn't just about the money, it was about the whole thing becoming cheap and shallow.
Exactly. He accused PPP of pandering to the lowest common denominator.
And this is where his Kino Dogma 2007 philosophy comes in.
Right. It was his attempt to articulate an alternative, a purer form of online content creation.
Like a manifesto for authentic expression.
Exactly. No fancy editing, no chasing super chats, just raw, unfiltered content.
Sounds almost idealistic in today's internet landscape.
It was. He was drawing a line in the sand.
Saying, this is what I believe in.
Yeah, this is real. This is raw.
So how did PPP take this public denouncement?
He tried to defend himself, mostly through his own channel, Kino Cathedral.
Oh, right, the one he started after the split.
Yeah, he claimed that Kino Casino was just a different format, a way to connect with a wider audience.
But also a way to make a lot more money.
Of course, but Godwinson wasn't buying it.
He saw right through it.
Yeah, he continued to hammer away at Kino Casino, exposing what he saw as its hypocrisy.
So it became a battle of ideologies.
Absolutely, Godwinson the purist versus PPP the pragmatist.
And this played out very publicly, right?
Oh yeah, the whole internet was watching.
It was like a digital gladiatorial combat.
With each side having its own cheering section.
Yeah. So what was the turning point in this feud? When did things really boil over?
Well, one of the key moments was Godwinson's return to Kino Casino for what they called the flamenco episode.
It was supposed to be a reunion, right?
A chance to hash things out.
Maybe even reconcile.
But it was a disaster. The interview was a mess. Everyone was uncomfortable.
It all fell apart.
It did. The flamenco episode just made it clear that there was no going back.
The relationship was beyond repair.
Yeah, and from there, the feud just escalated.
More attacks, more accusations.
He got really nasty.
So this wasn't just an online squabble. There were real-life consequences.
Oh yeah, reputations were damaged, friendships were broken.
It's a reminder that the internet can have very real-world impacts.
Absolutely, and this feud was a prime example of that.
So we have Godwinson championing Kino Dogma 2007.
Fighting the good fight.
But did he actually make a difference? Did anyone listen?
That's what we'll explore in the next part of our deep dive.
I'm really curious to see how this all unfolds. We've been digging into this whole Godwinson and Kino Casino saga.
Yeah, quite a story.
But beyond all the drama and feuds, did Godwinson's message actually get through to anyone?
Did Kino Dogma 2007 actually make a difference?
Yeah, that's the big question.
It's tough to say for sure. It's not like we can measure the direct impact.
Right.
But I think he definitely tapped into a feeling a lot of people have.
About the internet.
Yeah, like this sense of disillusionment with how commercialized everything has become.
Like we're all just products to be marketed to.
Exactly, and Godwinson was pushing back against that.
You know, it's funny when you think about it, Kino Dogma 2007 is almost like this nostalgic idea.
Oh, totally.
Like a simpler time before algorithms and sponsorships ruled everything.
Yeah, a time when content was about genuine expression, not just making a buck.
And that's what I find so interesting about Godwinson. He's not just a critic. He's like this.
Provocateur.
Yeah, he's a disruptor. He makes you confront the uncomfortable truths about the internet.
He holds up a mirror to our online world.
And makes us question what we've become.
Exactly.
But let's be real. Did anyone actually embrace Kino Dogma 2007?
Beyond a small group of hardcore fans.
Yeah. Did it really change anything?
I mean, it was never going to be a mainstream movement. It was too radical.
Too uncompromising.
Right. It was a complete rejection of the way things were.
You can't fight the algorithm, as they say.
Exactly. But even if it didn't start a revolution,
It was a powerful critique.
it gave a voice to those who felt alienated by the whole commercialized internet machine.
A voice of dissent.
Yeah. And that's important.
It made people think critically about the content they were making and consuming.
Which is ultimately what Godwinson wanted.
He was saying, don't just sit there and be entertained. engage with the ideas, demand more.
And even if his methods were a bit rough around the edges,
And he definitely had a flair for the dramatic.
he left a mark on the internet, there's no doubt about that.
He was a unique figure.
Controversial, but definitely interesting.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of Godwinson, what are the key takeaways?
I think the biggest one is that the internet isn't this monolithic thing.
It's not just one big happy place.
No, it's a complex ecosystem with all sorts of different voices and perspectives.
And those voices can clash.
Oh, they can clash spectacularly.
And those clashes can have real-world consequences.
Absolutely.
But within that complexity, individuals like Godwinson can make a difference.
They can challenge the status quo, start conversations, make us think.
And even if they fade from the spotlight, their impact can linger.
Their ideas can continue to resonate.
So as we leave the world of Godwinson behind, we're left with a question.
What role do you play in shaping the online world?
Are you a passive observer or an active participant?
The choice is yours.
And that's our deep dive into the world of Godwinson.
Thanks for listening.